Alright, AP Psychology students, welcome back to Liam's AP Psychology course. My name is Liam Kim, your AP Psychology lecturer and the leader of an education NGO called EduConnect. In today's lecture, we're going to look at Unit 4, Learning. And what learning is about is how we learn and how we learn things through classical conditioning. So the big question is, how do we learn? Now, learning is the process of acquiring new and relatively enduring information or behaviors. A change in mental process and or behavior could be defined as learning. And habits typically take 2 months to form. Habituation in that context is a form of simple learning. More specifically, it's when an organism decreases response to a stimulus with repeated exposure to it. So the more you build experience and the more you build the times and the number of times that you do something, you become better at it, and then the time that it takes for you to do it gets shorter. So for example, let's call back to the time when you first learned math. When you first learned 1 plus 1, when you got the question, what does 1 plus 1 equal? Then maybe as a 2 years old or a 3 years old or a 4 years old, it may have taken you more than 5 seconds to come up with the answer 2, right? Because at that time, you didn't have the 2 months that you needed in order to take that habit into your instincts and your quick responses, right? But now, as a teenage student, possibly in high school or even in middle school, now you know that within 1 second, 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? So, as time passes and as you build experience with a certain activity, the time that it takes for you to get used to it and then to come up with an answer becomes decreased a specific and a significant amount. The next thing that we're going to look at is associative learning, which is a form of complex learning. More specifically, it's learning that certain events occur together. Now, there are 2 types of associative learning. The first type is called classical conditioning, which is the association of 2 stimuli together and, as a consequence, anticipating events to occur. The second event is called operant conditioning, which is associating a response to a consequence resulting in a changed behavior. And when you're going through these types of conditioning, a stimulus is any event or situation that evokes a response. So for example, when you have a really scary bear in front of you, a bear is a stimulus that evokes fear, right? Yeah, that's what a stimulus is. And the cognitive learning is the acquisition of mental information, whether by observing events or by watching others or through language. So cognitive learning is, for example, you observe your dad shaving every day. And when you become an adult, like for boys, when you become an adult and when you have some hair appearing on your face, then you learn how to shave your mustache, right? Because at the first time, you don't know how to do it, but then by observing the event of your dad shaving his beard, then you learn too how to shave your mustache. So this is by watching others. Think of it as a change in mental processes. And observational learning is learning by observing others' experiences. So let's see this example. There are 2 related events. Stimulus 1 is lightning, and stimulus 2 is the sound of thunder, which goes boom. And the response that you feel would be startled reaction of wincing, right? Because the booming sound might bring a lot of surprise for you because you weren't kind of looking forward to it when you were first encountering lightning and thunder. Now, the result after repetition is when you see the stimulus, and only the stimulus, when you see the lightning, and then when you do not hear the thundering sound, maybe because like you're wearing your headphones or whatever, The response will be anticipation of loud noise and then an action accompanied by wincing. So this type of bodily reaction forms naturally because now, after you see a stimulus that previously evoked a certain type of emotion or bodily response before, now your body has learned, now it has got this habit, this anticipation of looking forward to a consequence of a stimulus that would follow after a stimulus is presented. Yeah, another example is when you say please for the first time as a boy, the response is being polite, right? When you say please, the magic word that makes things happen. And then as a consequence, let's say a boy in this picture, he got a treat, right? He got a piece of candy. And then the boy is saying please again because he is anticipating, he's looking forward to getting another piece of candy. Now this shows that the behavior strengthened, right? So this is operant conditioning. A conditioning that happens after a boy or a girl or anybody else is given a response as a consequence of developing a certain type of behavior, and then this type of behavior will occur more oftenly because this subject is going to anticipate for the treat or the reward that they had gotten by showing this type of behavior, and then they want it because it's desirable, such as a candy for a little boy, right? So this is all about conditioning. How certain types of rewards may make a behavior more likely to occur. This also connects to the concept of token economies, which is not described here, but that's about how an incentive, a desirable factor such as a candy, as I explained before, when it is given to you, then because he wants the candy more, because you want this, you want the stimulus more, the reward, the incentive more, your action to get the candy, which is in this case saying please, will increase a significant amount. And that is called token economies, which will be explained later. The next thing to look at is called classical conditioning. Now, classical conditioning is a type of learning in which one learns to link two or more stimuli and anticipate events. Behaviorism is the view that psychology should be an objective science that studies behavior without references to mental processes. Now, the basic idea here is the neutral stimulus, called the NS for short, which is a stimulus that initially causes no response. Another stimulus is the unconditioned stimulus, called the US for short. It is a stimulus that causes a natural reflexive response. An unconditioned response is the natural and the reflexive response to the unconditioned stimulus. A conditioned stimulus is a previously neutral stimulus that now causes the natural and the reflexive response. The conditioned response is the natural reflexive response to the conditioned stimulus. This is the same as the unconditioned response. Now, if you provide the neutral stimulus and then provide the unconditioned stimulus shortly after, the organism, the subject, will associate the neutral stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus. This means the organism will predict that the unconditioned stimulus will come when it gets the neutral stimulus. This means the neutral stimulus has now become the conditioned stimulus. Therefore, the organism will respond to the conditioned stimulus and show a conditioned response, which is the same as the unconditioned response, which is the natural and reflexive response.